Good morning. Welcome to this morning service. If you're viewing this through YouTube, what we've added is a link that will connect you to our resources page. So if you're looking at YouTube on a desktop or laptop, then if you would select Show More, and this will open up the text box below the viewing window. So there's some text at the bottom, and then there's a Show More. And if you select Show More, it opens up more text below the viewer. And then it says, you select this link, and it'll take you to our reference page if you want to follow along with the reading this morning. If you're viewing the YouTube through a mobile device, if you look here, right here, there's a triangle. So if you click that triangle, then you'll be able to open up that window. So if you're desktop or laptop, down here, there should be somewhere right down here somewhere. It says Show More. Click Show More, and it'll open up some text, and you'll be able to click on a link that will take you to the resources. We'll begin this morning's service with the reading of Sambujo, and following the reading of Sambujo, will you please join the reading of Juseige. We'll begin then this morning's service. Jo me 좀 제포뇨라 니우도 If you please join now in the reading of the three treasures on page 3 in the Dharma School Gatha book. Should be on the list of readings on that resource page. The three treasures. Hard is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear it. If we do not deliver ourselves in the present life, no hope is there that we shall be freed from suffering and sorrow in the ocean of birth and death. Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in Buddha. May we all together absorb into ourselves the principle of your way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves our supreme will. I take refuge in Dharma. May we all together be submerged in the depth of thy doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in Sangha. May we all together become units in true accord in your life of harmony, in a spirit of universal brotherhood, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through ages of myriads of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda, Namanda, Namanda. Once again, welcome to this morning's service. It's good to see, well, not see, but it's good to be able to join you for this service. We've been doing this now for a few weeks. We're starting to kind of get used to being in the Hondo by ourselves with just Mikame Sensei and I conducting these services. We've gotten somewhat used to preparing to do the broadcast, and that involves some software that we need to become familiar with. Also to adjust the cameras during the service. This morning, Mikame Sensei initiated the live stream setup. So, from the very beginning to the end of this morning's service, Mikame Sensei is taking care of that, and that's in preparation for the end of the month, Memorial Day weekend on the 27th. Is it 27th? No, 23rd, I think it is. Today's the 3rd, 10th, 17th, 24th. 24th, Sunday, May 24th, will be our Memorial Day service. We'll have that service here in the Hondo, as well as a service at the Mount Hope Cemetery in Morgan Hill and the Gavilan Cemetery in Gilroy. But rather than gathering together at those at Mount Hope and at Gavilan, we'll do a live stream via Zoom from those sites. So you won't have to come to Mount Hope. You won't have to come to Gavilan, but you will be able to observe a brief service that will be conducted there at both of those cemeteries. And on the following day, traditionally we've had a Memorial Day service at Oak Hill. And this year again, that too has been canceled. But there will be a broadcast of a Zoom again, broadcast of a service that will be conducted at Oak Hill. But again, not necessary to come to Oak Hill for that service, but you can participate or observe the service via Zoom on both Sunday and at Oak Hill on Monday. But on that Memorial Day weekend, when we broadcast from Morgan Hill and Gilroy, Mikami Sensei, will be here by herself conducting the services that we would observe here at the Betsing. So in preparation for that, Mikami Sensei is not only not practicing, but she's actually broadcasting these services, our Sunday services. As we continue with this shelter in place, there are so many adjustments that we've had to make. And it's not just sheltering in place, it's all of the challenges that we've encountered as a result of that. Certainly the pandemic, the number of people who have been sickened by this virus, and the number of people who have died here in the United States alone has exceeded more than 63,000 people have died. And this is in such a short period of time that it's quite difficult to imagine that many people have died, and the sorrow that has resulted from these many deaths. It's a big number, and when we think of these in terms of these large numbers, it's often difficult to remember that each death is of an individual, the individual whose life is connected with so many other lives, with the parents of that individual, the brothers and sisters perhaps, uncles and aunts, and neighbors and friends who are connected to just this one life, which this large number contains. So many people have been affected by this coronavirus, this pandemic, and that is just here in the United States. There are people around the world who have been affected by this. The number of people who have died continues to rise, and the death of these individuals are certainly deeply mourned. They are a loss, even if we are not directly connected with these lives. They are lives that remind us of our own lives, of the people who care for us and the people who think about us and who are concerned with our well-being. And these lives, these numbers represent lives that are connected with other lives, with lives that care just as deeply as we care for those who are around us. And that pandemic, the difficulties that has caused, has flowed into our everyday lives, even if we don't know directly someone who is involved with the care or the services that are connected with the pandemic. People's lives have been affected through the shelter in place. There are businesses that have had to close because they are unable to service their customers without risking further infections, and that each of us are doing our part to try and stem this pandemic, to try and do our part to slow the spread of this virus, so that our medical and emergency workers will be able to respond to those who become ill from this virus. Our economy has taken a tremendous downward turn as a result of this, and there are people who are trying to restore our lives and to bring back those things that we have taken for granted, that we are able to go out and visit places that like theaters and watch a movie, or just go to a grocery store and buy some food. But we are unable to do that at this time. And as a result, because, of course, these businesses have closed, people who are employed in these businesses have also been affected. I believe it's 30 million people who are on unemployment, many still trying to receive benefits through unemployment. And you may be one of those people who are no longer able to work and able to earn a living that would support you and perhaps your family and others that you are concerned about. And may now face hard decisions regarding how to get by, how to provide for yourselves and those around you. And in this very difficult time that we are all a part of, it may be sometimes easier to think about those things that cause us to be upset, cause us to be frustrated. In Buddhism, we know about the three poisons, that how these three poisons continually hold us to the six realms of existence. These three poisons are anger, greed, ignorance. And we can see around us how if we respond to things in anger, there's only more anger that is a response. If we engage the world in a way that only our needs are satisfied, and it's not just material things, but it might be how we see ourselves or how we want people to see ourselves. This too is a form of greed, that we want a certain way of doing things. Anger, greed, and ignorance serves to further deepen the difficulties that we experience. And Buddhism, this is not new. This is not something that is a result of this pandemic, these circumstances that we find ourselves in. The Buddha taught us this 2,500 years ago, and in many other religious traditions as well. We know the consequences of anger and greed and ignorance, that the results from these three poisons are further difficulties, that we cannot rise from the difficulties that we are experiencing to the furthering of these three poisons, that we can only begin to extract ourselves from the difficulties that we are experiencing through a response of kindness, of compassion. And it may seem odd to respond to these things with kindness, but kindness is the only response that we can offer when we are faced with the causes of difficulties, anger or greed or ignorance. To respond in kindness is a way of quieting that anger, quieting that ignorance and greed, to be able to recognize and to understand that if we respond to anger with anger, it will not quiet that anger. It will simply fuel it. It will cause greater difficulties for ourselves and for others. The compassion of Amida Buddha is an experience that, at least within our teachings, our understanding, encompasses us all. It's a part of all of our lives. And whether we think of Amida Buddha as a Buddha that looks at us and is concerned with our well-being, and perhaps we have difficulty with that, but we can still think about compassion, think about kindness and responding to the world around us. That although we may not have a personified idea of Amida Buddha, that compassion exists within our lives, that the positive responses that compassion and kindness have influences or can influence on the lives around us. The other day, yesterday, I went to Home Depot, and it's the first time I've gone to Home Depot since our shelter in place. And so when I went, And I went early in the morning so that I kind of avoid the rush of people. So at 7 o'clock in the morning, there were very few people there. But they had the lines out, and people were making sure that everyone who came in wore masks. So I went in to buy some 3/4-inch PVC joints, some slip joints and some elbows that I needed for a project that I'm working on. And as I made my purchase, and now everybody has these plexiglass plates in front of the cashiers. And again, this is not for just my benefit. It's also for the benefit of the people who are working, people that are there so that I can go to the store and buy some 3/4 slips and elbows, that I might be able to get the things that I think I need. It's not essential, but still, that they are there makes it possible for me to make that purchase. So as I was standing in line, making my purchase, standing in front of the cashier making my purchase, I said, it's really hard to see when somebody is smiling. And I was thinking, we have to be able to read each other's emotions better just by seeing our eyes, looking at another person's eyes and seeing what that person might be expressing. I said, hard to see smiles this way. And then so she took off her mask and she went like that, and she smiled, and she put her mask back on again. But it's things that we have to adapt to, things that we have to kind of learn to do. But even behind a mask, although it may not be as easy to recognize or acknowledge, the kindness of that exchange certainly made me feel better. And it's such a simple exchange, but that kindness, that compassion that was exchanged certainly is the same kindness and compassion that, the Buddha is about. Perhaps not as infinite, not as grand, but certainly expressed in a relationship, a simple passing a moment in which that kindness and compassion was exchanged. And so as I took my change and I thanked her and I went around, and as I was leaving, the person behind me called out, "Sir, you dropped something." So and as I was putting my things away, and I'm talking and I'm doing other things, she said, "You dropped this," and she picked up from the floor. She picked up my change that had fallen, that I had not put into my wallet, and it had fallen to the floor. And she picked that up and says, "You dropped this." And so even in that short moment of a minute, maybe 2 minutes, the checker, a cashier, smiled, and this person behind me picked up this, what I had dropped, and called to me that I had dropped this, and I thanked her for that. So in all of these difficulties that we see around us, and certainly there are profound difficulties, and we are going to continue to experience these difficulties. But in the midst of these difficulties, we can recognize, if we allow ourselves, even if we cannot see the smile on a person's face, be able to recognize in another the importance of the kindnesses, the compassion that are exchanged between individuals. I have no idea who these people are, or whether when I go back, if I'll meet the same checker that I met yesterday morning. And certainly if I did, I'm not even sure if I would be able to recognize her. And yet, in that short period of time, 2 acts of kindness, 2 acts of compassion. We need to remind ourselves that it's through that we can reaffirm who we are, the humanness that we share with one another. Again, the headlines kind of capture our attention that this happened here, this happened there, these people are arguing about this, and it seems to be so much a part of our how we see the world, and certainly these headlines are important. But it's also in the day-to-day things that are far more, far greater in number than these headlines that we read about. That in these quiet instances that are quick and passing, we are able to reaffirm the connections we share with all life. That whatever that those individuals' political views may be, whatever their circumstances may be at the moment, whether they are, that person behind me was thinking about an elderly relative, or the person in front of me was worried about downsizing at Home Depot, whatever those concerns and cares that they may have had at that moment, they were set aside. And in a simple act of kindness, the three of us were, at least for a moment, able to recognize and reaffirm in one another what we share as human beings. The everyday kinds of things that we are a part of should remind us of how deeply connected we are with all life. To remember the compassion of Amida Buddha expressed in our everyday lives helps us to see the world perhaps differently, and allow us to engage the world in a way that affirms the life of all beings. Please take care, continue to be sheltered, be safe. We are introducing more programs online as we kind of progress in this shelter-in-place study class. Tuesday night study class has started up once again. High school students, I hope you are signed up for Mr. Nishimura's, Master Nishimura's class at 11 o'clock. At our Sunday services will continue. We'll continue to make announcements through the website. A flyer, not a flyer, but a mailer has gone out, and hopefully you received the mailer. And in this mailer are several projects that have been initiated. And I hope you'll take an opportunity to visit our website. Hope that you will continue to be engaged with the life that we are all a part of. Perhaps sheltered in place, but hopefully not isolated. Again, thank you very much, everyone. I'm looking at my notes. On the 17th, May 17th, Gotanye service, as a part of that Gotanye service, we have in the past had an infant presentation service that would precede the Gotanye service. This year, what we'll do is have, as a part of the Gotanye service, beginning at 10 o'clock, infant presentation, and once that's concluded, then we'll continue with the rest of the Gotanye service. But the infant presentation will be via Zoom. So parents, if you would like to have your child participate in this infant presentation, please register and get the information from our website. Not everybody coming through Zoom, just the parents, so otherwise we'll be overwhelmed. Our Zoom will be overwhelmed. We'll continue to have this broadcast and then have at the same time have a Zoom infant presentation. So we'll be having kind of two technologies going on at the same time. But infant presentation, you won't have to be here. You can participate in infant presentation from your home safely, and we'll conduct the infant presentation. And everyone else will be able to view and participate in that through our normal broadcast. Yesterday morning, first time, Mikami Sensei had her yoga class, 10 o'clock, and this will be a continuing class next week, Saturday at 10 o'clock. Cody will be presenting yoga. Yesterday's was chair yoga, which will be every other, it will continue to be every other week. There were 20, almost 30 people in attendance. So good opportunity to stay engaged and get some exercise. I had good reviews from Kathy. I didn't. I should exercise too. I encourage others to exercise, but I don't do as much as I should. Next couple of weeks, next week the 10th, Mikami Sensei will give the Dharma message. The 17th is Gotaien. The 24th is Memorial Day. That's the end of the month, and we'll know what we'll do from that point going forward. But next few weeks at least, we will continue with these live stream broadcast of our service again. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. As we conclude, will you please join in Gassho and Nenbutsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Thank you very much, everyone. Please be safe.